fear is a call to courage. I'm going to say it over and over again, because fear is a call to courage. And within each of us is more power than we even understand, more power than we've learned to harness, more power than we understand how to wield. And if we will let go of all the fear and all of the that holds us back, and embrace this true reality of the strength and power and courage within, truly our deepest dreams, the things we long for, are just a moment away.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. Kim has an amazing story. When I was interviewing Kim for a more traditional real estate breakthrough style, Kim alluded to this story, and I got a chance to talk with her a little bit about it. And I want to bring this to you guys. So we're not going to follow our usual format of real estate and all that other stuff, but we are going to talk about living one's life purpose while completely engaging in your business or your real estate, whatever it is that you do professionally, while facing a personal situation that I'm going to let her reveal for you. So let's go a little bit to her bio, just so you have an understanding of who she is and where you can engage with her. So let's go to her. So Quattro Capital, you can see here that she is part of a larger team. This team has intentionally chosen each other. Quattro Capital has a specific purpose. They all have spent the time to align for the purpose. I will let her talk to that as well. Amplifying wealth while amplifying life. So I'll just read the top sentence. Quattro Capital is an investment firm focused on residential multifamily real estate, such as apartment complexes, mobile home parks, and the like, that yield strong returns for our investors. Investing in real estate purposefully is the tool that helps more people achieve wealth and the freedom to live well. So let me introduce Kim herself. Kim is a single family and multifamily real estate investor. She's a founding member and director of asset management at the Quattro Capital. She loves working alongside her partners. I'm not going to say the partners' names because I know I'm going to mess them up. Before real estate, she spent the 28 years in leadership positions at major corporations like IBM, Northrop Grumman, servicing Fortune 50 clients with multi-billion-dollar outsourcing services. Kim made the transition from technology to real estate after performing the heart-wrenching work of selling 3 estates for her loved ones. During these years, she realized just how much real estate increased their wealth. So her interests were piqued, and she jumped right into real estate, never looking back. And if you want to know more about that story, that's probably in the previous podcast I did with Kim. Her current position is all about living a great life now, creating significant generational wealth, and giving back through being philanthropic. She longs to make a difference and leave the world a little better than when she found it. Kim, I just so love that you speak my wording. You speak my language. You have my focus. And I'm excited to bring your story here today. And we're not going to start with the usual question of how did you get into real estate? We're going to start with the question of, you had an amazing life story happen to you just recently in this time of COVID. And I want to share that because I think there's a profoundness there that people need to hear. So Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christina. Oh my gosh, I loved our last conversation. I can't wait for this conversation. And to all your listeners, how blessed are we all to get to hear Christina and her wisdom. I love the fact that every time I listen, I gain new insight. And we hope that today's story helps you in that same way.
Yes, I hope so too. I hope so
well,
too.
We're all sick of COVID.
We're all sick of COVID. It's been let's see, 2020. So March of 2020. It is now, it was March 16th of 2020. It is now March 16th of 2022. Oh my God, this is exactly the 2-year anniversary of the declaration of the shutdown on March 16th of 2020.
Yeah. It's been an intense 2 years. And all of us, every human being on the planet has been affected. whether directly with COVID like I had been, or indirectly through all the economic trauma, or sadly through bereaving the lost. Like, it has been incredible. And those of us who are in business, it's required all of our creativity, intention, focus, perseverance, all of our courage that we can muster to keep moving forward and find a way through. And yet here we are 2 years later, like incredibly managing to thrive as an economy despite this massive pandemic. So we are living historic times, and folks, we're history makers. Every one of us is making history and making a difference. So if it's okay with you, Christina, I don't want to get into all the gory stuff in the medical, but I do need to tell the story so the listeners can hear. So I'll jump in, okay?
Yeah. No, you gotta tell a story. Jump in. That's what we're here for.
Team. Here's the deal. We're telling this story, and today I looked it up. 965,000 people died from COVID so far.
Yep.
As of today in America. That's just in America.
Just in America.
When I got sick in December of 2020, there were only 365,000 people who had died. So here we are 2 years later, 3 times as many people have passed. Holy smokes, right? I'm so grateful not to be one of them. I'm so grateful no one listening to this podcast is one of them. I know that all of us have lost people that are dear to us. And for those of you who are still grieving like we are, just know you're not in that alone. And know that their life was a blessing to you. Whether it was a good relationship or a bad relationship, it was a blessing. There's some things you learned from them that you'll not learn from anyone else. And their memories, the good parts of them, that is all where we need to focus and be. For me, my story started with Thanksgiving. Way before the pandemic was actually declared and we shut down, my husband and I had started quarantining because I helped my mom in her 70s with her business, and I'm around her a lot. And then together we care for my grandmother who's in her 90s. So we knew that we had to be careful. My husband's people are also elderly. So there wasn't any playing around with it. We just had a lot of respect. We didn't know what was what. We didn't know where the risks really lied. We just knew we needed to be careful because we love them, and we would have just been mortified if we brought harm to them. So we had been super careful. My sister and her family had been super careful. So that Thanksgiving, my mom insisted, we're getting together for Thanksgiving, just the 5 of us. We said, okay, we all did our tests. We did all the stuff you need to do to get together. My mom's home is thankfully large and open, plenty of ways that we could social distance. So we gathered and we had a beautiful time together. In fact, just thinking about that moment brings up emotions because we had not been together and suddenly were, and it was beautiful. Well, my sister and I made a fatal mistake. That fatal mistake was, well, the allure of shoe shopping for Black Friday. So we decided, hey, we've been doing really good. Yeah. You know, let's just run out. We're going to spend no more than an hour shopping. So we were in and out.
And we'll have our masks on.
That was the fatal flaw. We were probably one of a third of the people in the area that were wearing masks. And at that time, I mean, I was aware of the risk, but I didn't realize it takes 2 people wearing a mask to be really safer. And so we were in a whole bunch of people that weren't. In my heart, I knew we should move on, but I was having fun with my sister and we didn't. 3 days later, we're all back home. We didn't go anywhere else, thankfully. We went shopping, we went home. 3 days later, we're all in our respective homes in our respective cities. And one by one, we're calling each other with COVID symptoms. And within 72 hours, all of us had full on COVID. So thankfully, my niece and nephew are, my nephew, Chad, who's a business partner, you'll see him on the website. His wife is a PhD pharmacist. She knew about the BAM shots before, like remember, we're talking December 2020, no vaccines. We barely had the BAM shots. Like it was still pretty new on how to treat it. So she was able to get my mom the BAM shot, that with the Z-Pack. She did well. My sister and her husband did well. My husband did well. They all felt horrible, awful, miserable, and have suffered long COVID. Please don't think when I say they did well, I meant it was easy. It was awful for us. But for me, on day 8 of COVID, I was getting in trouble. Suddenly, my oxygen, I couldn't keep it over 90. So when I called and talked to my doctor, that's the threshold.
That's the threshold.
That's the threshold. She said, look, you probably just need supplemental oxygen. I know you're very active, even though you're a large person. You just need to go get some oxygen. So head to the ER. It's time. So I didn't rush to the ER. I don't know. There was something in my soul that was just like, take a moment, gather yourself. So I packed a backpack, and mostly I was praying. And what I was praying about was courage. I did not want to, in my weakness physically, allow my mind to fall back into fear. Because fear is, well, it's false evidence appearing real, and it's in our imagination.
Or future expectations appearing real. False evidence appearing real, or future expectations appearing real. Either one can spin you into a state of fear that has you no longer focusing on the reality in front of you and your purpose. Sorry, Kim, continue.
You're so spot on. And that's an essential life skill. It's an essential business skill. Risk management isn't about fear. It's about hitting full on the reality and finding a way. So when you think through that moment of, okay, I've got to go to the ER. You've been hearing from the news, well, nonstop, what that's all about. So I had to get my heart and mind right. Got that together. My husband drives me to the hospital. We're both kind of quiet, lots of touch. That's our love language. And we get to the parking lot where, you know, like so many, he can't go in. You know, our family's that whole tribe. The whole tribe comes and we all help each other and blah, blah, blah. And okay, I knew I was going to walk in that door and it was going to be me and the staff and we're going to do this thing. So my husband, however, was having a hard time. How do you encourage someone you love, right? And so gave him probably the strongest hug I ever have and said to him these words, I love you and I fully expect to walk out those doors. So meet me back here. And then I went in and it was just as horrible and as awful as everybody's talked about. And you just work your way through it. The people that I was immediately feeling compassion for was all of the exhausted medical staff who were truly in every single way just dead-eyed. They were spent. They'd been at it for a year. We were spiking again that December, and it was truly, truly intense. So I go through that process. I remember the nurse telling me, we have to keep your oxygen up or you're going to have to go to the ICU. And I kept trying to breathe, and I was breathing deeply, but my body couldn't convert the air. A couple of days later, I ultimately blacked out and don't remember when they took me to ICU. I don't remember when they put me on the vent. I don't remember a lot. There's a big elapsed time there. But the drugs they give you, the paralytics, your mind is on the wildest trip. Like, I've never been a drug addict or even played with it. So I was quite surprised. And I thought, I never understood drugs, and now I understand them even less. Like, I did not enjoy that experience. And fentanyl is what they put you on to take you down so that your muscles and your body won't fight the vent and that your diaphragm will relax and breathe. But that wasn't working. My body, even on the vent, my oxygen level was 48. Brain damage starts happening around 80. So not only was the oxygen at 48, but the doctor told my husband that I was breathing at over 100 breaths a minute. So I was like, just, you know, like you're just running up, you know, Mount Everest. And really what happens so many times is that happens to people, and ultimately the diaphragm can't go anymore, and then your heart stops and it's over. So he had called my husband telling him this grim news. Now, remember, my husband has COVID. My sister has COVID. The people closest to me, my mom has COVID. They're all sick and isolated. And now they're dealing with this news. And my amazing, wonderful, introverted husband became the family's communicator. And so he took encouragement from them, but his words constantly were, she said she's going to walk out of there. She said she's going to walk out there. So courage, you know, just that little bit of encouragement we give it to each other and we hold on to it is such a big deal. So my family is people of action, not so much going to just, you know, let that news land and not do something about it. And truly the most powerful thing they could have done is what they did. They made a massive call to prayer. And I know for some people, you just rolled your eyes. And for some people, you're thinking, yeah, oh gosh, we're going down the spiritual. And I have to tell you, it's the most important part of life. And let me share with you why it's mattered in business and in life. My family and my business partners, Quattro Capital, they had people from 11 countries, 4 of the 5 largest faiths praying. And if you think about prayer from a mindset perspective, prayer is believing and knowing that you can yourself tap into a spiritual power that we cannot see or hear, but only experience, and change the physical reality here in this physical world. You talk about mindset ninjas. People of prayer, they are mindset ninjas. So we've got this, you know, global ninja team. How blessed am I for that? Holy, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just 2 days ago, I met another person who happens to be one of our investors, and he was sharing with me how he had been praying for me. And it's still, I still feel such gratitude for them, because when I couldn't fight, they were fighting for me, right? So, okay, they called my husband at 7:30 in the morning. Big prayer push happens. Oxygen's at 48. And all of a sudden, around 9 o'clock, no longer is it 48, it's 98. Now I'm still on the vent, still breathing rapidly, but all of a sudden my body is converting the air into what our body needs. I'm breathing. So hashtag GOD, miracle moment, insert here. Mindset ninjas succeed, and the power of the mind working through people, working through the medical staff, working through me, my body, the whole thing, all of that comes together. And that alone is like a 2-hour story. And I'm really being disciplined not to go there, but I can tell you this, there are some amazing, amazing spiritual stories there. And I would love to share with anybody who wants to talk about it. You can find me at KimWendland.com. You can find me at Quattro Capital. You can ask Christina. I'm happy to share those stories. So that's the context. Christina, how are we doing on time? Are we okay?
I got 30 minutes, girl. You keep talking.
Well, wow. So in that moment, I have no idea really what's going on. I truly don't. The one flicker of reality that I have in that moment was there was a big cheer in the ER, and there was a bunch of people around me. Apparently, all the staff were right there when it happened, and there were a lot of people who witnessed it. And I remember in that little snapshot, there was a lot of people looking away because they were looking at the monitors. And I remember this one person put her face right in front of mine, like, are you really there? And I blinked like, who are you? And she goes, she's here. And they all cheered, right? So it was a cool moment. And then I was out again because, you know, I'm still pumped full of all this stuff. Okay, so what happens between miracle and today is a lot. And I want to try to summarize it for you.
Because the
But
story
there's
doesn't stop. The story doesn't stop when you have a miracle. It shapes you and it grows you and it transforms you. And that's the story, right? It's not just the COVID, it's the transformation.
it's a new beginning. Like I literally refer to myself right now as Kim 2.0, and I'm learning what that means. It's only been a little over a year now, and I'm learning what that means. But I have learned some things along the way that are so important to share. And I kind of categorize them into this big heading that fear is a call to courage. I'm going to say it over and over again because fear is a call to courage. And within each of us is more power than we even understand, more power than we've learned to harness, more power than we understand how to wield. And if we will let go of all the fear and all of the that holds us back and embrace this true reality of the strength and power and courage within, truly our deepest dreams, the things we long for, are just a moment away. And when I say that fear is a call to courage, I break it down into three things now, because for me, I've learned it's a fight, it's a surrender, and those things seem in conflict, so we'll distinguish them. And it's also perseverance, right? So what do I mean by this fight? Well, my family was fighting for me with prayer. The doctors and medical staff were fighting for me. In fact, my primary care physician happened to, in quotes, go to residency with the gentleman leading the ICU. So she felt like she could personally call him. And she's like, hey, fight for this person. She falls into the obese category, but she's active. She swims 1,000 meters in 30 minutes. She doesn't have, and she listed all the comorbidities. She's like, this person deserves your energy. Put it into this person. So she was fighting for me. The doctor kept saying to her, it's COVID, go away. She kept saying, fight,
got a lot of COVIDs, go away.
So there's this push, this fight where you're physically doing all you can do. You're spiritually doing all you can do, and you're finding a way. So here we are, literally 2 years away from the stopping of the economy. Let me tell you about the fight in our team, Quattro Capital. That very day, March 16th, was the very day the economy went into free fall. The stock market was falling at the same time that the bond market was falling. And that was the first time it had happened since the Great Depression. Right. We were 12 days away from the closing table. The loan was approved. It was a portfolio of 3 properties. We were ready to close. Literally, we were just waiting on paperwork to sign. Our lender couldn't hit their margin call. They didn't have money to lend, and they had to pull the loan. Now, here you are, you've got $250,000 in money hard. You have tough decisions to make. Should we keep trying to buy this property, or should we let the money go? What's the right thing for the investors? What's the right thing for the people who live there? What's the right thing in the context? Like, all these questions. What do? You get curious and you go figure it out. You fight through the fear. And literally 2 months later, after the seizing up of the entire banking system, multiple extensions, more hard money, we literally closed that project. Guess what? It's under contract right now. And in this period of time, this 18 months we've owned it, we've earned our investors 51% return in 18 months.
Nice.
You have to fight through it. Like, you don't get to the win at the end of the marathon if you stop in mile 5, or you stop because there's a hill, or it starts to rain, or it starts to hail. You keep going. You fight through it. And so that's why I say fighting is as important, not about with each other, but resistance, pushing through obstacles, finding a way above, around, over, through, whatever it takes, Marines mindset. COVID was no different. holy smokes, fight of my life for sure.
Yeah.
And as we move into the second concept of surrender, that seems so different than fight. While you're fighting, you must also trust. And you can't be trusting if you're holding on to stuff. In order to trust, it's like a balloon. You can put a hot air balloon. You can put as much fuel as you want in that hot air balloon. But if there is one small rope tied to one small tree, that thing is not going to launch. You will be holding that fuel button until the tank is empty and landing hard. It is essential. It is essential to trust. And in this analogy, trust looks like dropping the rope.
Yep.
You have to let go and trust, knowing the physics are there. You're not in any way in any more or less danger, but in your mind, you're in a place of centerness, a place of calm, a place where strength lives, a place where courage lives, because you're not focused on fear. You're focused on trust. And you know that whatever the outcome is going to be, it needs to be not in this form of giving up, but in the form of knowing and believing. Like, I forget who said it. Please forgive me. We can put it in the show notes. I'll find the quote. Our biggest weakness isn't, well, it goes this way. Our biggest weakness is quitting. The surest way to succeed is to take one more step. Just take one more step. So in that property that we were trying to buy during the middle of the shutdown of the global banking system, during that time, we literally were taking one more step. For 2 months, we committed to making 5 more lender calls a day. All of us were making 5 more phone calls, 5 more phone calls. We would get a deal. We would be working the math, and by morning they weren't lending anymore. We would start over, 5 more phone calls, 5 more phone calls. After 6 weeks, we literally didn't have anybody else to call. There weren't any lights on in the banking industry, like, except for the predatory ones, and you didn't want to play there.
Yeah.
So we all agreed we just couldn't let go of it. It was 2 a.m. It was 2 a.m. And I hear somebody like this weird sound. And I'm like, what is that sound? And my partner is like, oh, I'm in the bed. It's my husband snoring. Don't worry about it. So we're doing deals in pajamas in bed, right? And because we've worked until midnight. And so we're huddled at 2 a.m. and we all agreed we had to try one more. We literally said that. Let's all make 5 more phone calls in the morning. And if we can't make anything happen, we have to let it go. Everybody made, I made my 5, everybody else made their 5. And Chad was on his last call. And bam, we learned about an entirely new type of lender, community development, CDFI, community development financial institution. Totally different type of lender. And when we finished, we had a better deal than when we started. So you just have to keep taking one more step. And you've taken those steps while at the same time in your mind, you're knowing and you're trusting that this thing is going to come to pass. So the last step, perseverance, like you're fighting, you're surrendering / trusting. Okay. There's this long period of time of perseverance. So I left the hospital on Christmas Day and moved from the hospital to rehabilitation in the hospital.
Okay.
And in my mind, I don't really understand how weak I am. In fact, I still don't understand how really weak I was. Back then, I'm trying to get my bearings because what I didn't know was when you're in ICU, just being in ICU, you're not moving, you're horizontal, you lose 3 to 5% of your muscle mass every day. I was there 12 days. So that's 60%, right? Then on top of that, there's the paralytics that make you super weak because they're designed to make you not move. And finally, there's the effects of COVID pneumonia. Like, pneumonia's bad, wipes your energy. COVID pneumonia, I don't have words. Like, think of it this way. I think I was as strong as a newborn puppy. I think I was as strong as my niece that was born a few hours ago. Like, literally just floppy weak. After days and days and days, I'm finally talked the staff into helping me try to stand up. Now, they all know it's futile, but I'm not giving in. Like, I know if you don't move, you die. You have to move, right? I've been moving everything I could in the bed, but it was time to try. 2 people, walker, and I finally stand up, and I am trembling, like my hair is trembling, everything is, I was just floored. But I stood there as long as I could, and they were watching the clock for me. It's 25 seconds. And I just kind of fell back. Now, that would have been super easy to be discouraged and have a reality moment, but fear's a call to courage. And instead, I let out this loud as I could in my weak state, a big cheer, and said, woohoo, let's do it again. And the whole room just laughed, right? And so I figured out right in that moment, not only did I have to recover, I had to learn to walk again, I had to learn to stand again. Like, it was going to be slow. So recovery is not for the faint of heart. Recovery is perseverance, and it is the only word for it. And when you go into recovery, if your mindset is one of, wow, this is hard, it's going to be way harder for you. But if instead you'll replace that old tape with a new tape that says, wow, I just stood for 25 seconds. I'm going to celebrate because that's a freaking gold medal performance right there. And engage the people that are with you and have fun with it. It's not as bad. It's like when you're trying to like lift something really heavy because you're moving or doing whatever. It makes all the difference when people around you huddle to help and they help you lift it. Like, embrace the team and celebrate the heck out of every teeny tiny step. Like, big celebrations. I'm not kidding. When I actually walked across the floor with 7 steps, yes, that was a big celebration because I knew if I could go 7, I could fulfill my promise and I could walk out of that hospital with my husband. Yeah. And that day came. I walked out of the hospital. Normally they make you ride in the cart and stuff. So I explained to everybody why that wasn't going to happen.
That's right.
And they said, have you walked that far before? I said, no, but it's not too much farther than what we've done in therapy. I know I can do it. And they let me walk out on my own strength and into my husband's arms. It was just fantastic, right? Then that led for the whole year. Folks, it was a full year of celebrating tiny wins. That full, complete year in December of 2021, just 3 months ago, I graduated from therapy. I had physical, occupational, and cognitive therapy. And I want to tell you how big this miracle is. The doctor told my husband that fewer than 15% of the people survived the event in the conditions that I was in. Fewer still, less than half, don't have a tracheotomy. Fewer still of those, hardly any, measurably none, don't have major organ damage. I have no trach, I have no brain damage, I have no major organ damage, and I am still getting better every day. Please hear me. Please, please hear me. Fear is a call to courage. Whether I lived in this life or the next, I was going to be alive. I trusted in that, and I believed that, and I knew it. And because of that strength, and because of the strength and encouragement of the people around me, and the amazing mindset to be willing to challenge the physical world with the spiritual world, all of a sudden miracles happened in business and in life. While I was in the ICU, we closed a multi-million-dollar deal. While I was in rehab, I was signing closing documents on a deal on literally December 31st of 2021. So success in life and in business go hand in hand. How we think about life and how we think about business go hand in hand. And let me leave you with this. Whether you are a badass and confident, or a fearful person who's afraid, or somewhere in between, I know this truth to be true. There is more power in you than you know. There is more courage in you than you know. Your dreams are not dreams. They are treasures given to you, massive blessings that you're to bring forward and bring into reality. And as you bring your dreams to life, you inspire others to do the same. And we literally transform this physical world that we're living from the dreams that we conceive. I had no idea that I would one day manage a portfolio, a personal portfolio of $100 million in real estate. And I would have never believed that we would have done that during a year of a pandemic, when the entire global economy stopped. Trust me when I tell you, fear is a call to courage. I believe in you. I know Christina believes in you because Christina's a rock star and she knows these things. All of this is true. And oh, if you want to talk more and go deeper, I'm happy to. But please, 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 please take that in to yourself and convert it into action. Fear is a call to courage. And yes, you will. Okay. I think I went a little long there, Christina. I hope
No, you're still good, Kim. That's amazing. Amazing. The story itself is amazing, but fear being a call to courage is like, it's like a banner. It's like, what is the thing you need to know about living in life? What is the thing you need to know about being successful in real estate? What's the thing you need to know about being able to be joyful and on purpose?
Absolutely.
Is understanding that fear is a call to courage. It's not about it's not about hiding your light. We're not supposed to hide our light. We're supposed to move forward. We're supposed to stand proud inside of the light we've been given, whether that's a community that's praying for you that solves your body in 2 hours, or whether that's just being willing to stand up and say, you know, I've always known I could do this. I've always known I could participate in this. I've always seen this vision, this dream in my head that it says I can do this. And being willing to stand, like you said, with the greater knowledge and strength that we possibly can believe that we hold, creates that, helps us fulfill those dreams, helps us fulfill the vision in our head, helps us to fulfill when we understand that fear is a call for action.
Call to courage.
Call to courage.
Courage you act. That's
Courage.
exactly, you're spot on. You're spot on. You're so wise about that. Oh my gosh. So true.
So appreciate your story, Kim, because like I said, it's not a usual format, but I just felt like it's so important because I try to say it in many different ways. Who are you going to be? How are you going to stand up in life? How are you going to meet the reality of what life has to give you? The example of the balloon, freaking fantastic, amazing. Like it's ideal because it truly is like, yeah, I'm gonna hold that gas down. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. I'm determined. I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep adding steam. I'm gonna be that locomotion that can create something in this world. And I can let go of all I'm gonna assume needs to happen. I can let go of all my tethers and know that this balloon's just gonna go where it needs to go. And it's okay if I have to adjust my path and adjust my directions as it's flying. I'm still going to get somewhere. I'm still going to get higher and better than what I have now. If I'm willing to work hard and surrender, willing to fight and surrender.
It's so true. And something I failed to mention, I can't believe I didn't tell you this part. To that surrender point, we worked through the timeline and figured out that around the time that the family and the team is doing this big prayer push is about the time I knew I was in trouble. And I remember saying to God, kind of putting my head back into my pillow in a little bit of frustration. And I said, God, my mind is so distorted, I can't even pray. Please have people pray for me. And I just relaxed. And in that moment, I surrendered. So think about that. Like, I'm surrendering at the time they're fighting. And then hashtag God, we have a miracle.
Woo, 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 woo. We've got a miracle,
Yeah.
baby. And you are the living miracle. And so how it must have not just changed you physically or even financially, because clearly it changed you financially. You now take bigger pushes and bigger leaps financially than you would have previously.
Sure.
How has it changed you personally?
That I'm still growing through. This is, the first year was all about recovery. Like, it was recovery
physical
101.
recovery.
And
Yep.
this year I'm learning to figure out, wow, who am I now? And figuring out what things am I going to jettison and say no to so that I can become, the next, it's like a cocoon moment in a way. And I look forward to seeing where that I'm going to go. But I can tell you it was really strange for a time. Like, the way I've told the story, it feels like everything would be like roses and butterflies, right? But it was tough. And as long as I remember being alive, I remember spiritual conversations with God. Like, it was just part of how I was made.
Yeah.
And yeah. And for the first time in my life, even though I've just experienced a miracle, I was as hollow and as dry spiritually. I've never experienced that before. And so you would think, being the recipient of a miracle, that it would be a spiritual high, when in fact, for me, my experience was that it was very opposite. And so I've learned since that it was a combination of drugs and all kinds of stuff that was messing with my mind. But the root of it was a bigger struggle than I knew. And so as I came out of that, it was probably November and December here of 21 that I began to experience myself in the same way. And there were parts of that I loved. And then I was acutely aware of parts of that they no longer serve me, if they ever did. And I have a lot of things to let go. So I think I'm rambling now, but to kind of land the plane here, I feel like I'm in one of those places where I'm truly rediscovering my dreams and understanding things that I let go of long ago, so that I can pick up again. So I'm excited. Thanks for asking.
I love that answer, and I love that description, because I went through a big medical thing with my daughter, right, during COVID. And so, there's a lot of push and a lot of surrender and a lot of, being in the hospital and being out of the hospital, all of this stuff that was going on.
All the perseverance.
And and a lot of perseverance, a lot of perseverance, because it wasn't even me walking the journey. It was my daughter walking the journey. So what could I do? All I could do was, persevere and surrender and persevere. And all I could do was just walk the path, because her body was defining the path.
Yeah.
There wasn't a choice on that one. Her body was defining the path that she and I were going to walk, and she had to walk it. And all I could do was support. All I could do was to hold her hand.
And that was huge.
Every moment of every day, of every, every time, right? That's all I could do. And what's fascinating is that I do find myself spiritually exhausted.
Yeah.
And yet we just went through this amazing push to have her walk her path as soundly as a child can walk it. And I was there with her in that push, physically, spiritually, energetically. And I ended up being spiritually exhausted.
Yeah, you poured out. That's beautiful.
And I'm just, but I'm saying, you say the same thing. Like, there is an exhaustion, a spiritual exhaustion. Yeah, maybe the drugs also make it harder, because there's not the faith in the place of will isn't lined up anymore. Like logistically, you can't feel God, right? You just can't feel God the same way you used to feeling it, because your body and your mind are literally somewhere else.
Yeah.
But then I also would say, and can attest to, that there is a spiritual exhaustion that can happen after you've walked such an intense, spiritually appropriate, but intense path.
Yeah. And that's that beautiful word rest, right? And I probably could talk another 5 hours on rest, but I never respected it before. But rest is where the healing happens. Rest is where the renewal happens.
Yeah.
And you know, resting is the flow part. Like there's the hustle and then there's the flow, just like the sea. There's the wave that breaks and then there's the retreat, and the wave that breaks and the retreat. And man, when you have a really big wave, there's a really big retreat.
Yeah, it's a really big ass wave. It really is. That's correct.
Yeah. So it, you know, it's just that hustle and the flow, and you know, as you renew your strength and rest in the beauty and recall all the beautiful things that happen, feeling gratitude. I found rest and gratitude to be the real piece to coming through that.
Kim, thank you. A profound, profound story, just as I had hoped. I so appreciate you sharing it in all its glory, all its difficulty, and all its goodness. And I just hope my listeners can really, really hear fear being a call to courage. They can really hear the difference it makes personally, financially, mentally, and in one's capacity to fulfill one's purpose. Just that simple awareness and dedication. Thank you, Kim. Kim Wendland with Quattro Capital. You are the best. How do people get a hold of you if they want to know more about your story or even know more about investing? Maybe they do. Maybe they want to know more about investing.
Thanks, Christina. I'm so grateful. Your journey and your daughter's journey landed in a positive place too. That's beautiful. And I'll be encouraging you for your rest. But yeah, to get a hold of me, Kim at thequattroway.com. It'll be in your show notes, I'm sure. Or you can reach me at kimwendland.com. Regardless, fear's a call to courage. You can do it. Christina believes in you, so I do too.
All right, guys, thank you so much. This is Christina Suter on Real Estate Breakthrough. You can find us on YouTube, Roku TV, soon enough Amazon Fire, also iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes. Tune in next week, everybody. Bye.